Canada is one of the 10 wealthiest nations on the planet. The average Canadian household is now sitting on a net worth of over $1 million. So why does almost nobody feel rich? 54% of Canadians spent more than they earned in the last 12 months. Nearly a third are carrying more debt than they are comfortable with, and 1 in 3 has struggled just to pay a bill on time. So here's the question nobody wants to ask out loud. In a country this wealthy, how much money does it actually take to be in the top 10%? The answer might surprise you, or it might make you realize you are a lot closer than you think. Let's break it down. Before we get to the top 10%, we need to establish where most Canadians actually stand. And this is where most people get tripped up, because there are two numbers that sound similar, but tell very different stories. The median after-tax income for Canadian economic families in 2023 was $74,200. That is the true middle. Half of all families earned more and half earned less. But the average? That is a completely different animal. Because of the way averages work, a handful of people earning millions of dollars per year pull that number way up. By 2025, the average weekly earnings for a full-time worker in Canada had climbed to roughly $1,297 per week, which works out to about $67,467 a year before taxes. So if you earn $70,000 and you feel like you should be doing better, you are not imagining things. You are roughly at the national midpoint. You are not behind. You are average. And in Canada, average still means you are watching your grocery bill like a hawk. The reason people earning what looks like good money still feel broke comes down to three words: housing, taxes, and inflation. In cities like Toronto and Vancouver, rent or mortgage payments alone can consume 40 to 50% of take-home pay. Now, let's climb the ladder. To be in the top 10% of individual income earners in Canada, you need to earn at least $125,945 per year. That is a senior manager, an experienced engineer, a dentist in a mid-sized city, or a skilled trades worker pulling serious overtime. It sounds like a lot, but it is only about $18,000 more than the upper boundary of what Statistics Canada considers middle-class income, which tops out at $106,717. Step up one more rung. To reach the top 5%, you need $162,210 per year. Think of a partner-track lawyer, a senior tech lead, or a physician early in their career. And the top 1%? You need to clear at least $250,519 in individual income. The average earner in this bracket actually pulls in around $315,911. These are specialists, surgeons, senior executives, successful business owners, and top-tier financial professionals. For households, the bar is even higher. To crack the top 1% as a family, you need a combined household income of at least $306,710 per year. Now, here is the kicker. Even at $125,000, after federal and provincial taxes in a place like Ontario, your take-home pay is closer to $85,000. That is roughly $7,000 a month. And if your mortgage or rent is $3,000, well, you can see how the top 10% can still feel tight. But here is where most of these conversations get it wrong. Income is what you earn. Net worth is what you keep. And they are not the same thing. A doctor earning $300,000 a year with $500,000 in student debt and a $2 million mortgage might actually have a lower net worth than a plumber who has been quietly maxing out their RRSP and TFSA for 20 years while living in a paid-off house. Your net worth is the true scoreboard. It is everything you own: your home equity, your RRSP, your TFSA, your non-registered investments, your pension, minus everything you owe. And when you measure wealth this way, the picture changes dramatically. According to data compiled from Statistics Canada, the Canadian Housing Statistics Program, and the Bank of Montreal, here is what it takes to be in the top 10% of net worth for your age group in Canada. If you are younger than 35, you need a net worth of at least $350,000. That might sound impossible when you are 26 and paying off student loans, but remember, the median net worth for this age group is only around $39,000. So if you have managed to save a down payment and invest even modestly, you are already ahead of most of your peers. For Canadians aged 35 to 44, the top 10% threshold jumps to $900,000. This is the stage where home ownership and consistent RRSP contributions start compounding. The average net worth for this group is about $658,000, so the gap between average and top 10% is narrower than you might expect. For the 45 to 64 bracket, you need roughly $2.5 million. This is peak earning and peak accumulation territory. Canadians in this range have average net worths between $1,350,000 and $1,600,000, driven heavily by real estate appreciation and retirement account growth. And for those 65 and older, the top 10% threshold sits at around $3 million. The average net worth for this group is about $1,120,000. But the top decile is where decades of disciplined saving, pension income, and property appreciation all converge. For context, the overall top 10% net worth in Canada, regardless of age, is $865,200. The top 5% is just over $1 million. And the top 1%? That requires at least $10 million. Now let's zoom out, because wealth is relative, and globally, Canadians are doing exceptionally well. According to the 2025 UBS Global Wealth Report, Canada ranks 9th in the world for median wealth per adult, at approximately $151,910. That puts Canada ahead of the United States, which, despite having the second highest average wealth per adult at $620,654, falls to 15th place when you look at median wealth, just $124,000 per adult. That gap tells you something important. In Canada, wealth is more evenly distributed than in America. Your typical Canadian is wealthier than your typical American, even though America has far more billionaires. Globally, the average wealth per adult is only about $95,384. And in much of the world, across large parts of Africa, South Asia, and Central America, the median adult has less than $5,000 to their name. So if you are a Canadian with a paid-off car, some savings, and equity in a home, you are not just in the top 10% of Canada. You are comfortably in the top tier of the entire world. And this brings us to the part that no spreadsheet can capture. The top 10% is a moving target. Every year, thresholds inch upward. Housing prices shift. Markets rise and fall. The goalposts never stop moving. And here is the uncomfortable truth. Even people who are objectively in the top 10% rarely feel like they are. Psychologists call this the relative wealth problem. We do not compare ourselves to the global median. We compare ourselves to our neighbors, our coworkers, and the curated highlight reels we scroll past every day. A family earning $150,000 a year feels middle class in Toronto because everyone around them seems to have more. A family earning the same amount in Moncton feels wealthy. The data says the top 10% starts at $125,000 in income, or $865,000 in net worth. But the feeling of being wealthy? That starts somewhere else entirely. It starts when you stop needing more. The wealthiest Canadians are not always the ones with the biggest paychecks. They are the ones who figured out the gap between what they earn and what they spend. And they invested that gap, consistently, for decades. They maxed out their TFSA. They contributed to their RRSP every single year. They let compound interest do the heavy lifting. You do not need to be a surgeon or a CEO to reach the top 10%. You need a plan, patience, and the discipline to keep going when it feels like nothing is happening. Because one day you will look up, and you will already be there.